Hello, everyone. This is Kevin, your entrepreneur, and let's talk about Postmates today. Some people have been emailing me and with a little bit of confusion because they're wondering if people are still tipping on Postmates. They say, well, you know what? I used to see, I do like 10, 12 deliveries a day. And, some people would, not leave a tip. Some people leave a tip. And then some people it would be pending for a little while, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. It really just kind of depended. And people have asked me, you know, did they stop tipping because it's showing pending all day? Like I can get through like a whole shift and I don't see a single tip. Well, folks, this video is to assure you, first of all, you are still getting tipped from certain people. Yes, the tip siphoning thing is still happening, but the change you see is actually in a response to that, so that you are less likely to notice that the tips are being siphoned. You probably just heard a chime, but ignore that. And here's why. Because the easiest way to find out if your tip had been siphoned is if after you complete a delivery, instantly you would see no tip. And that's because it doesn't matter what the person tipped you. Whoever the company who placed that order immediately siphoned the tip to the restaurant. And it was pretty easy for the fleet members to find out that this was a restaurant that would not be tipping, and they would make it a point not to pick a delivery up from that place because they knew that they weren't getting a tip. Well, of course, because we just saw this thing with DoorDash on the $2 fee for the small orders. Postmates wants to fix that problem, but not in a way that's beneficial to the drivers or the delivery people. So what they have done is they've made it so that after you pick up an order, you will not see whether you get a tip or not for 24 hours. Doesn't matter what restaurant it is. It just doesn't matter how big it is. You just won't. And here's here's how they can get away with that. I mean, aside from the fact that they own the company, but they don't pay you for 5 days, so it's not like this is going to affect your payout anyway. And on 24 hours, if you whether it's a $0 amount or tip, you have no way of telling if that restaurant siphoned your tip or not. Because here's the thing, that video that I made is about the tip siphoning. It's one of my most popular videos. In fact, it's probably a good reason why many of you have subscribed to this channel in the first place. Well, Postmates heard the complaints, and this is how they're fixing it. They're just going to try to cover up. And the reason they want to cover it up is because they don't want you to get smart and compare notes about which restaurants you do not get tips on. And therefore, you are more likely to pick up an order that you aren't going to get a tip for than you would if you knew that the place wasn't going to tip. And this is one of the reasons why it's good to join Facebook groups and stuff for Postmate carriers in your area. Because now that Postmates is trying to cover up what places are not tipping, now you kind of need to help each other. Like, if you want to try to figure out which places are not giving tips, go to Facebook, search for Postmates and your area, join a Facebook group. And what you will, and I can't give you advice on which ones to do because region will help a lot. And every time you do earnings, with the exception of fast food, because you're probably not going to get tipped on that, but it's not because your tips are being siphoned. Like, write down the restaurants that you don't get tipped on every single shift. And people can start comparing notes. And chances are there will be some restaurants that consistently show up as not being tipped. And if everyone's not getting tipped at that restaurant pretty consistently, then guess what? Your tips are being siphoned at that restaurant. And then you make it a point, make a mental note, to not pick up those orders. This is the only way to fight it. And yes, it does require some work. But such is the life of an entrepreneur. You just kind of have to figure out the business. You have to learn how it works. So that's why your tips aren't showing up for 24 hours. And that's what you can do to try to ensure that you pick up orders from restaurants that will allow you to have your tips, and avoid restaurants where your tips are going to the restaurant and not you. Kind of sucks, I know, but that's what you got to do. So anyway, do you guys, what's your experience with this? Do you like the change? You dislike it? I'm pretty sure you dislike it, but I'm gonna ask anyway. like to know, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one. I am going to end this because I am so tired of holding up the camera right now.